Well, there we go. Thank you, God, for everything. We're recording. And we're doing biblical word study, of course, one word at a time. And we thank you, God, for doing this. And we did a pretty good past couple of weeks. There was a lot of stuff on dross and stubble and chaff and mixed and mingled and tempted and tried. And we squeezed all that in last week. Like 6, 7, 8 words there on mix and mingle um, and sort out. And then for some reason, I hit a verse that started talking about images and idols and teraphims and stuff like that. And we'll probably run into it, but I can't think of the verse off the top of my head. I was looking through these Manners and Customs book that I got here, and these guys, they do pretty good covering things. And I wanted to look up idols and idol. Did a few things, but there was just a couple of things we were interested in here. And I'm going to start with, I think it's Fred. No, let me start with this guy here. This is James Freeman's Manners and Customs book. And he starts on metallic idols. And in Isaiah, I believe it's Isaiah, yeah, Isaiah 32, actually. Why do I have 30 up there? It's 32 and 4. 30, 22. Oh, 30, 22. Yeah, the verse is, he received them at their hand. Excuse me, this is Exodus. Let me just put this up here real quick. Exodus 33. Because this is the verse that he goes through verses and he talks about each thing. Exodus 33. Excuse me, 32 and 4. It's all Roman numerals. I get confused sometimes there. And he received them at their hand and fashioned it with a graving tool. And after he made it a molten calf, and they said, "These be the gods, O Israel, which brought thee up out of the land of Egypt." Come on, man. You got to be kidding me. This is when Moses was up on the mountain, 40 days, 40 nights, and the people got restless, and they gave all their gold and stuff to Aaron, and he threw it in the fire, and this popped out, so to speak. So, and then most of the large idols worshipped by the ancients were first made of wood. So he made something of wood, and then they covered it with plates of metal. And we find this in illustrations. Let me close this. Here we go. In Isaiah 30:22. Here we go. It's Isaiah 30:22. You shall defile also the covering of thy graven images of silver, and the ornament of thy molten images of gold. Thou shalt cast them away as a menstruous cloth. Thou shalt say unto it, Get thee hence. And I should give you the definitions first, because there's so many. Let me just run through these real quick here. All right. This is not the first one we'll get into, but this is one of them. This would be Rachel stole the images from her father, and this would be the Teraphim, 8655 Teraphim, image Teraphim idol, and we could read about that if we get a chance in the TWOT 2545. All right, and another one for images is 6456. It's Piesel, There's a bunch of them, but I'm just gonna give you these real quick. Pencil, graven image, carved image, and there's like 20 some odd verses for this, and it comes from 64:58, which is pasal, which means to hew or graven. When the Lord said to Moses, "Hew thee 2 tables of stone, like unto the first." That word "hew" is a pasal, and he hewed them. So we're not too much interested in this particular word here. Habakkuk 2:18. What profit? What profit is the graven image that the maker thereof hath graven? The molten image. So we're going to get into all of these words: graven image, molten image, and a teacher of lies, that the maker of his work trusteth therein to make dumb idols. And there's a bunch of good words in there too. Habakkuk, the graven image, one we're looking at now, is 64:59, and that's another one. 64:59 is pisel. So one's a masculine noun, the other one's a masculine noun. This one's the verb. So this is a graven image, carved image, or an idol. That's 64:59. Pisel or pesel. You can see the same spelling here in the Hebrew, but they put the different marks on them. Pisel, pasal. And it comes from, of course, we just looked at 64:58, which is the hewn thing there. So those are 3 other words for image. And then you had another one here, the molten image, molten gods. This is 45:41, and it's maseka, image, molten, covering, and also a pouring in a libation. We can get into that too if we want to, the drink offering and the libation. So this is basically the molten gods, and it comes from nasak, which means to pour out, or to pour, to cover, melted, to pour out. So that's the verb for that one. Yeah. And this is a feminine noun, meseka. But it's mostly molten gods, molten images. And if we get into reading this, we'll see a little bit about the pouring out drink offerings and stuff like that. But you get further down, and it gives you a better understanding of what we want here from here. All right, so that's the, I don't know what number, 1, 2, 3. And this is 4. This is 46:76, and this would be matseba. Almost sounds like the other one. It's an image or a pillar, matseba, and it comes from, it's a particle of natsab, which means to stand or set. All right, and it's almost like histome in the Greek. Matseba, and that's an image or a pillar. And set up a pillar, they poured oil on top of it, Jacob, and then the stone which I have set for a pillar. So these are things that, it could be something that's not idol worship. It's something that he was told to set up. You set up altars, you set up pillars, and things like that. So not everything here is negative pagan stuff. Some of it is stuff that they set up when they set up altars. It's for God. And of course, the grove here is Asherah. I got it up there already. Asherah means grove, and it's a groves for idol worship, and that's what they set up. It's tree worship. The grove, your Christmas tree is a grove. It comes from Asher, which means blessed or blessed. And even what's his name, Asher, was blessed. I think his name is down here too. Asher, happiness. Yeah, one of the sons of Jacob. His name is Asher, and his name means happiness. There it is, Asher. And then Asherah. There's a lot of stuff in here, and if we get a chance, we'll go through it. I don't know what number that was. So that was 5, 6. So this is 6. And then there was a bunch of them here that I really didn't get to break down. I just wrote them down for the sake of writing them down. And he set a carved image, the idol which he had made. And the idol is the word simel. I got it here already. Simel, image, idol, figure, statue. TWOT 1515. And as you can see, there's a lot of words in here. Gilliam, Maskit, Asa, Pisal, we just looked at Maseka, Nesek, we're looking at that, Teraphim. They got all of them in here, and you'd have to go and look up all of these here. Idolatry was prohibited and condemned as apostasy and a deviation from God's basic standard. While an idol was nothing itself, idolatry did bring men into contact with evil spiritual forces. Hence, idol worship was both spiritually damaging and dangerous. The context in which semel or simel occurs reinforced this picture. Thus, idol making was expressly forbidden to Israel as a violation of God's person, work, and covenant with them. And you got Deuteronomy 4:15-20. It was good. These are good verses. Take ye therefore good heed unto yourselves, for you saw no manner of similitude on the day that the Lord spake unto you in Horeb out of the midst of the fire, lest you corrupt yourselves and make you a graven image, the similitude of any figure, the likeness of male or female, the likeness of any beast that is on the earth, the likeness of any winged fowl that flieth in the air. And you'll see these images all over the place with all these pagan religions. They'll do birds, they'll do things that creep on the ground, beetles, even cats and things like that. The likeness of anything that creepeth on the ground, the likeness of any fish, is your Dagon that is in the waters or beneath the earth. Unless thou lift up thine eyes to heaven, and here we go, we're looking up at the sun. You see the sun, the moon, and the stars, even all the host of heaven, shouldest be driven to worship them and serve them, which the Lord thy God hath divided unto all nations under the whole heaven. Now he put them up there for signs and wonders, and we're seeing stuff that's coming on the earth now. And he says, look up, because your redemption draweth nigh. And he's talking about everything that's happening on the earth now. He says, in 20, but the Lord hath taken you and brought you forth out of the iron furnace, that's Egypt, even out of Egypt, to be unto him a people of inheritance as you are this day. So we're not to do any of this stuff. And then setting up an image in the temple or its precincts was an act of gross sin. And you'll see that in 2 Chronicles 33. And they did this. Manasseh did this. All of these guys did this. And then you got Ezekiel 8:1-6. Want to read all of it. We'll run into these verses again later, but I just wanted to read this real quick because it's a short one. So simel is used theologically of the image of God. The prohibition of idols in Israel was apparently unique in ancient times, as was Israel's religion, because all these other pagan religions, all they were doing was setting up idol worship. The obvious thing about every idol image is that it represents a created thing, which is naturally less and less worthy than the creator. So we can't set up anybody. We're going to put a picture of God. You can't put a picture of God. You don't know what he looks like. Romans 1:23, and they changed the glory of the uncorruptible God into an image made like to corruptible man, and to birds and four-footed beasts and creeping things. And we can't do that because everything, when you say God, that's it, God, period. If you say God is and put anything after it, you're diminishing God. God is that. So, and that's 55:66. And then you got 46:56. And this is Mifletzeth. Mifletzeth means an idol. It's four times in the Bible. It's a horrid thing or a horrible thing. And it comes from palatz, which means to tremble or to shudder. And we'll see what the TWOT is here. I think it's a short one. Yeah, shuddering, a horrid thing, shuddering horror. So, and the four verses here have to do with Maacah, his mother. Even her, he removed from being queen, and this is talking about Asa, because she had made an idol in a grove. And Asa destroyed her idol and burnt it by the brook Kidron. And then also concerning Maacah, it's the same thing, but in the Chronicles. So that's the only time you'll see that in the Bible. So we'll get that out of the way. And that would be this here. And then this last one here, 1690. It's got, well, Otseb, sorrow, wicked, or idle. So I don't see much here that concerns us, except for this idle, this last one here. Sorrow, labor, grievous, idle. Grieved, displeased, hurt, sorry, vexed, rest. 1666 and 1667. Idle. Here we go. Might be good on this one here. We can look at this real quick. Idle. Used only twice in the Old Testament. Job 10:8. Thine hands have made me and fashioned me together round about, yet thou destroy me. Thine hands have made me. Atzab. Okay. Had fashioned me together round about. So the protagonist speaks of Yahweh shaping or fashioning him. A difficult construction is found in Jeremiah 44:19. And when we burned incense to the Queen of Heaven and poured out drink offerings unto her, did we make her cakes to worship her and pour out drink offerings unto her without our men? And this is in Jeremiah, and he's talking about the Queen of Heaven. And they didn't want to give this stuff up, and we still don't. We still do it today. We worship Mary, the Queen of Heaven. Queen of Heaven, and poured out. So there's that word nasak, also part of one of the words we looked at before for an idol. Drink offerings, nisek, a drink offering, libation or a molten image. And we did make up cakes to worship her and to pour out drink offerings. And they did that, and they shouldn't have. To make an image to worship, bearing her image. And then idol, a vessel, something fashioned, or like a pot or a jar. And in Jeremiah 22:8, it's talking about Jeconiah. He says, and this man Coniah, a despised broken idol. So that's what he was. Is he a vessel wherein is no pleasure? Wherefore are they cast out, he and his seed, and are cast into the land which they know not. And then we got Asab in the plural. It's but our God is in the heavens. He hath done whatsoever he had pleased. Their idols are silver and gold, the work of men's hands. They have mouths, but they speak not. Eyes have they, but they see not. They have ears, but they hear not. Noses have they, but they smell not. They have hands, but they handle not. Feet have they, but they walk not. Neither speak they through their throat. They that make them are like unto them. So is everyone that trusteth in them. O Israel, trustest thou in the Lord? He is their help and their shield. O house of Aaron, trust in the Lord. He is their help and their shield. Ye that fear the Lord, trust in the Lord. He is their help and their shield. So forget about all these idols. And it's just like the Christmas tree. They must needs be born. You got to carry them around. They can't do good. They can't do evil. They can't do anything. They're fake. And that's what that's talking about. There doubtless are places where Eseb, idol, should be read for Eseb, sorrow, or it's similar words. And Psalm 16:4 may be the point. Their sorrows shall be multiplied that hasten after another god. Their drink offerings of blood will I not offer, nor take up their names into my lips. So all of these things are connected. The drink offerings, the libations, to idols, and it says there's sorrows here, and that word sorrows, atzabeth, is a wound, sorrow, and is also there's some kind of word for idol in here too, but we just looked at it. Anyway, so that was a quickie on that one. We're getting these, done little by little. I looked at a lot of them. And then this other one here would be, and of course in the New Testament, maybe we'll slip into the New Testament today and look at this idol, 1497 is eidolon. That's an idol, an image or a likeness. And there's a lot of verses here for this one. There's 11 verses for this. From Idol, it means from Idol. And in Acts 7:41, this is Stephen telling the story. He says, and they made a calf in those days and offered sacrifice unto the idol, which is the calf, and rejoiced in the work of their hands. And that's what it is. It's the work of their hands. 1497, Idolon. And then 1520 says, but that we write unto them, that they abstain from pollutions of idols and from fornication and from things strangled and from blood. And this is when the apostles got together and they were forming the church. And what are we going to tell these Gentiles? How they should act. And then James said this. Tell them that they abstain from pollutions of idols, fornication, from things strangled, and from blood. And then, later on, they did away with the physical circumcision and the physical baptism because we couldn't do that. All right. And then Romans 2:22, thou that sayest a man should not commit adultery, dost thou commit adultery? And thou that abhorrest idols, dost thou commit sacrilege? I want to go through all these verses. I could look this up in the Theological Dictionary. If you wanted to look this up in the Theological Dictionary, you go to volume 2 and start on page 375 with this particular one. Or if you have the 1 or 2 volume set, you just go to page 202. So that's Idolon, and that's idol. And then you got Idoluthon. It comes from 1497, eidolon, and this word for death, I think it is, kill or sacrifice, idol, and thuo. So you're killing things offered unto idols, things sacrificed unto idols, 1494. And he was telling James again in a different verse, telling him that you abstain from meats offered to idols and from blood, from things strangled, from fornication, from which if you keep yourselves, you shall do well, fare you well. We're on our way. We're establishing the churches here. And then the same thing here in Acts 21. Save only that they keep themselves from things offered unto idols. And then 1 Corinthians 8:1, now as touching things offered unto idols, we know that we all have knowledge. Knowledge puffeth up, but charity edifieth. As concerning, therefore, the eating of those things that are offered in sacrifice unto idols, we know that an idol is nothing in the world, and there is none other God but one. So if you see these things in this 1 Corinthians 8, it's talking about things offered unto idols. If you yourself are being served this food that was offered unto idols, you got nothing to worry about because you're not worshiping it. It's just food and nothing that God gives us. So that 1 Corinthians 8, we could read that whole chapter, and it talks about things offered to idols, sacrifice to idols. So you got 1 Corinthians 8:1, 8:4, 8:7. Howbeit there is not in every man that knowledge, for some with conscience of the idol unto this hour eat it as a thing offered unto an idol, and their conscience being weak is defiled. For if any man see thee which has knowledge sit at meat in the idol's temple. So if someone is still a babe, and they're and they see you eating something that was offered to idols, even you know there's nothing wrong with it, they might be bothered by that. So you wouldn't do it just to make sure that they aren't For if any man see thee, which with hast knowledge, sit at meat in the idol's temple, shall not the conscience of him which is weak be emboldened to eat those things which are offered to idols? So you have to know what you're eating and why you're eating it. What say I then? That the idol is anything, or that which is offered in sacrifices to idols is anything? No, it's not. So, and he goes on to explain all this in 1 Corinthians 10. And then, here we go. Revelation 2:14, but I have a few things against thee, because thou hast them there that hold the doctrine of Balaam, who taught Balak to cast a stumbling block before the children of Israel, and to eat things sacrificed unto idols, and to commit fornication. And in 20, notwithstanding, I have a few things against thee, because thou sufferest that woman Jezebel, which calleth herself a prophetess, to teach and to seduce my servants to commit fornication, and to eat things offered unto idols. And if you eat something, as long as you know what you're doing, you're not going to praise it. You know, that's what they're talking about. And then that's that. And then this other word here is idolon, and it's one time in the Bible. Idolon, idol's temple. Okay, so we'll look at this up real quick in 1 Corinthians 8:10. Oh, that's the idol's temple. Okay, for if any man see thee which has knowledge, sit at meat in the idol's temple. That's it, idolon. And then, of course, I'm going to leave that there. The image, of course, is the icon. And, you know, Romans 8:29, for whom he did foreknow, he also did predestinate to be conformed to the image, the icon of his son, that he might be the firstborn among many brethren. And this is the image, the figure, the likeness. And there's a lot of verses here about this. Maybe we'll get into it. If I read the theological dictionary, I'm sure all these verses will come up. So we're looking at all these words for idol, and this brings us back to the first page we're on. And image, so you can see, look at all this. Image, you got a whole bunch of TWOT words here with images, and the Teraphim is one to a whole bunch of stuff on Teraphim. And then idols, idolatry. You could look at hundreds and hundreds of verses on idols and images. There's 8 verses here. This is good. And then there's, we just looked at that one here. But this one here has images. I think this is the last one I looked at. Come on. Yeah, came on. Image, idol. And it's like 5 or 6 words are related to this. 1, 2, 3, 4, actually. And they mean idol, image, also sun and heat. Let me do this. Sun and heat. Okay. And then kam is hot or warm. You can see the chem there. And then the kamam is warm, hot. So kamam, kama, kam, kamam. Idol, image, idol, sun, heat, hot, warm. And that's that. And it's TWOT 677. And there was something that I was looking at here at this one, was there? Incense, altars, represents small cultic objects used in pagan worship, and is paralleled to Asherim. So you'll see the word Asher in this verse here in 17 and 8. He says, and he shall not look to the altars, the work of his hands, neither shall respect that which his fingers have made, either the groves or the images. This is Isaiah 17 and 8. And we'll take it out of context, but things he has made, either the groves, which I don't know if I showed you yet, the word for grove, or the images, and that's this word here, kamam, masculine noun. And then 2 Chronicles 34:4, And they break down the altars of Baalim in his presence and the images that were on high above them. He cut down in the groves and the carved images and the molten images. He brake in pieces, and he made dust of them and strode it upon the graves of them that had sacrificed unto them. And this was one of the prophets, I think. This is, what's his name? The young guy. Yeah, that was right. Josiah. Yeah. Josiah was 8 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned in Jerusalem 130 years. And he did that which was right in the sight of the Lord. So he took all of the images down, break down the images. So he was like 16 years old when he did this, if the Bible is right about his age. Baalim, that's Baal, or Baal, however you want to say it. Jim says Baal, I say Baal. And the presence of his images, so here's the word we're looking at, Kamam, that were on high, and that's what they put them. They put them on high, and he cut down the groves. We're going to look at groves, Asherah, and the carved images, Pisel. We looked at that already. So it's good that we have these verses, these definitions in our head. And the molten images, I believe we looked at this already. Molten images, Meseka, yes, we looked at that real quick. It's on our list, 45, 41. And he break in pieces and made dust of them. And that's that. Good. And the bibliography here, nothing. So, perhaps the smallest, okay. So we'll leave this here. Come on. And then, I think this last page here is, we looked at already. So I'm going to get back to this one that I was looking at with these guys in the manners and customs. So that was a real quickie on the definitions. And that's only a few. That's not all of them. I mean, I just went through some of the pertinent definitions on images, molten images, graven images, idols, teraphim. Oh, I didn't do Asherah, right? No, there was something else before I get to this guy. There was something else. Where was it? Pisha, possibly did that. 457. Let me do this one real quick. 457. Because I got stuff in the book that I don't have on the page here. 457. So these are, that's idols. That's idol. 18 verses for this Elil, idol image, something that's of no value, something that is a thing of naught. And you'll see that with this word here is al, which means never, nay, neither, nothing. And you'll see 12 verses. Okay, I thought to be more than that. And if this is akin to 3808, which is a particle. These are particles that go before the word, like nothing, never. It would be al. So it's el or allele, and this low, this word low goes before something that means it's not, nay, none, never. So these are two negative words here, 3808 and 408 al, and they're talking about turn you not unto idols, nor make yourselves molten gods. I am the Lord your God, and that's Leviticus 19. And Leviticus 26, you shall make you no idols, nor graven images, neither rear you up a standing image, neither shall you set up any image of stone in your land to bow down unto it, for I am the Lord your God. And I'm sure Exodus in the Ten Commandments, there's also stuff there too, but this particular word here is the word Elil. But you have the molten image, Massacre, we looked at. Graven image, 64, 65, that's the Pisel, we looked at that. So I'm just going to stick with this 457. So 1 Chronicles 16:26, for all the gods of the people are idols. And it's negative, but the Lord made the heavens. So they're nothing. Basically, it's of no value. It's a thing of naught. So that's what this Elil is. It's but you are forgers of lies. You're all physicians of no value. So that's basically what the word Elil means, and that's what an image is. It's something of no value. For all the gods of the nations are idols, but the Lord made the heavens. Confounded be all they that serve graven images. I'm sure we looked at that word already. That boast themselves of idols. Worship him, all ye gods. Isaiah 2. Their land is full of idols. They worship the work of their hands. And that's what idols are. It's the work of the hands. That which their own fingers have made. And in 18 he says, and the idols he shall utterly abolish. And 2:20, in that day a man shall cast his idols of silver, his idols of gold, which they made each one for himself to worship, to the moles and to the bats. And in 10:10, as my hand hath found the kingdoms of the idols, and whose graven images did excel them of Jerusalem and of Samaria, shall I not, as I have done unto Samaria and to her idols, so do to Jerusalem and her idols? So here, before he even destroys the northern kingdom, he's talking about this in Isaiah 10 and 11. He's going to do it unto Samaria, and he's going to do it unto Jerusalem. And the burden of Egypt, behold, the Lord rideth upon a swift cloud, and shall come into Egypt, and the idols of Egypt shall be moved at his presence, and the heart of Egypt shall melt in the midst of it. I mean, he did that already. The 10 plagues, every plague was against one of their gods, one of their idols. We broke them down once before. Every one of them is an idol that was I'm the Lord, I'm God, he says. And the spirit of Egypt shall fail in the midst thereof, and I will destroy the counsel thereof, and they shall seek to idols and to the charmers and to them that have familiar spirits and to the wizards. And we can look these up. Maybe we'll do that next week, man. Talking about the charmers. What's the word here? Softly charmers. Softly charmers. That's the first time I'm seeing this. 328. 328. Lead them softly, deal gently. Is there any secret? Go softly. Word means softly, okay, but they have these charmers here. So I get, charmers with what are they? He talks about them that peep and mutter. They speak, like ventriloquists, and have familiar spirits. That's the Ob, familiar spirit. The bottles, the water skin bottles, right? And wizards. We looked at these once before. Yidiane, wizard, a Noah, one who has a familiar spirit, a soothsayer, a necromancer. Oh man, we can go off on all of these words here. And of course, 3045, yada, 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 yada. I know. When you hear somebody say yada, 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 that's the Jewish word. All right. Let me see. For in that day every man shall cast away his idols. We read that already. Jeremiah 14:14. Then the Lord said unto me, the prophets prophesy lies in my name. I sent them not, neither have I commanded them, neither spake unto them. They prophesy unto you a false vision and divination, and a thing of naught, an idol, and a deceit of the heart. Ezekiel 30:13. Thus saith the Lord God, I will also destroy the idols. What's that word? 30:13. Also destroy the idols. 15:44. Oh, that's another good one. I don't think I gave you that one yet. Let me give it to you now. Gilul. Yeah, there's two words here. Gilul. That's 15:44. TWOT 353. Gilul, idols. I'm sure I had it on one of the pages here, but this is a good one. Gilul, and there's another one, Atsab. Let me get this. Atsab, I think it's 6091. We might have looked at it. Oh, 6091. And they're idols. So we got Atsab and Gilul. So if I didn't give you that, let me give it to you now. This Gilul is 1544, comes from 1556, which means to roll. Okay, when they roll a stone, there's Galal and Gilgal is down here somewhere too. To roll away, to roll together. But this Gilul, we'll get into that if we get the chance to. There's some good things on that. And also this Atsab is another word for idol or image, 1667. I don't know if we looked at this yet, but put it down there anyway. 1691, Atsab. To grieve, to displease, to be sorry. It sounds familiar. 1666 and 1667, but I think, yeah, 1667 is the one we're looking at here. Good. So those two, I'll just get them out of there, but they're on my list. I just wanted to make sure I gave you those two, because those are two good ones there. And what are we up to here? Cast away the prophecy, false divination. Okay. Will destroy their idols. And I will cause their images to cease out of Naph, and that's in Egypt. And there shall be no more prince in the land of Egypt, and I will put a fear in the land of Egypt. And Habakkuk 2:18, what profiteth the graven image? That the maker thereof hath graven it, the molded image, and his teacher of lies, that the maker of his work trusteth therein to make dumb idols. There's no profit. There is no profit. The graven image, the maker thereof. That's that's the graven pasal, same thing. You got 6458 pasal we looked at, and 6459 pisel we looked at, the same thing, graven image. And the maker, the work of his hands, is dumb idols. Okay. Zechariah 11:17. Woe to the idle shepherd that leaveth the flock. Whew. Wow, the sword shall be upon his arm and upon his right eye. His arm shall be clean, dried up, and his right eye shall be utterly darkened. So if he's right-handed, he won't be able to use his right eye to pull back the bow or to fight or anything like that. So that's good. 457. Elil. Close this out. Probably going to need I forgot what I was doing here. What's the last page? All right. Oh yeah. The thing I was going to start with, I didn't even get to yet. Isaiah 30:22. This guy, Manners and Customs. Now I could probably read this because the back of my mind, I had these definitions. I had to get them out, so this way you understand. If you see some of these words, you'll know what we're talking about. So, most of the large idols worshipped by the ancients were first made of wood and then covered with plates of metal. We find illustrations of this in Isaiah 30:22. He says, you shall defile also the covering of thy graven images of silver and the ornament of thy molten images of gold, and thou shalt cast them away as a menstruous cloth. Thou shalt say unto it, get thee hence. And there was a bunch of verses that I had looked up. It's like 40 some odd verses here that in reference to this. Whew. And it's a lot. I don't know if I can get through all of it now, but in that day a man shall cast his idols of silver and his idols of gold, which he had made, each one for himself to worship, to the moles and to the bats. We read that already. And we're going to read a bunch of these verses several times, to go into the clefts of the rocks and into the tops of the ragged rocks for fear of the Lord and for the glory of his majesty when he arises to shake terribly the earth. And he's doing that now. The heavens shall be shaken. And that's in Luke 21. and men's hearts shall be fearing. They'll be in fear for the things that are happening on the earth. For the heavens shall be shaken. He shall not look. So he's going to look to his maker, and his eyes shall have respect to the Holy One of Israel, and he shall not look to the altars, the work of his hands, neither shall respect that which his fingers have made, either the groves or the images. And I'm sure we looked at all of these definitions. By this, therefore, shall the iniquity of Jacob be purged, and this is all the fruit to take away his sin, when he maketh all the stones of the altar as chalk stones that are beaten in sunder, the groves and the images shall not stand up. So we break down the altars. And in 31:7, for that day every man shall cast away his idols of silver. And we saw that a couple of times already. And this is, what's his name? I think it was and the king commanded Hilkiah the high priest and the priests of the second order and the keepers of the door to bring forth out of the temple of the Lord all the vessels that were made for Baal and for the grove. So you wonder why Israel was taken away. It was because of Baal and grove worship. Baal is the Lord, false god, and the grove is the tree, or the moon, the sun, and the stars, and for all the host of heaven. And he burned them without Jerusalem in the field of Kidron, and carried the ashes of them unto Bethel. And what's Bethel? Beth is house, El is God, is the house of God. And he put down the idolatrous priests whom the kings of Judah had ordained to burn incense in the high places in the cities of Judah and in the places round about Jerusalem, them also that burned incense unto Baal, to the sun, and to the moon, to the planets, and to all the host of heaven. And he brought out the grove from the house of the Lord without Jerusalem unto the brook Kidron, and burned it at the brook Kidron, and stamped it to small powder, and cast the powder thereof upon the graves of the children of the people. And he brake down the houses of the Sodomites that were by the house of the Lord, where the woman wove hangings for the grove. And he brought all the priests out of the cities of Judah, and defiled the high places where the priests had burned incense, from Geba to Beersheba, and brake down the high places of the gates that were in the entering in of the gate of Joshua, the governor of the city, which were on a man's left hand at the gate of the city. Nevertheless, the priests of the high places came not up to the altar of the Lord in Jerusalem, but they did eat of the unleavened bread among their brethren. And he defiled Tophet, which is in the valley of the children of Hinnom. We don't have to go through this. We know what this is. This is what Jesus called Gehenna, that no man might make his son or his daughter to pass through the fire to Molech. And he took away the horses that the kings of Judah had given to the sun at the entering in of the house of the Lord by the chamber of Nathan Melech, the chamberlain, which was in the suburbs, and burned the chariots of the sun with fire. And the altars that were on the top of the upper chamber of Ahaz, which the kings of Judah had made, and the altars which Manasseh had made in the two courts of the house of the Lord, did the king beat down and break them down from thence, and cast the dust of them into the brook Kidron. If I was a treasure hunter, I'd go to this brook Kidron, man, and see what I could find. There's got to be a lot of stuff down there. And the high places that were before Jerusalem, which were in the right hand of the Mount of Corruption, which Solomon, the king of Israel, had builded for who? Ashtaroth, the abomination of the Zidonians. And this is what Solomon did. And for Chemosh, the abomination of the Moabites, and for Milcom, the abomination of the children of Ammon, did the king defile. All of these things were set up in Israel by Solomon. And that's why the kingdom was divided. after Solomon. And he break in pieces the images, cut down the groves. Wow, we got a revival going on here. And fill their places with the bones of men. Moreover, the altar that was at Bethel and the high place which Jeroboam, the son of Nebat, who made Israel to sin, had made. So this is the guy who split, was charged of northern Israel, and he set up the golden calf in Bethel. That's sacrilege right there, and the other places. And he made high priests of the lowest of the people. And he, instead of sacrificing and doing the Day of Atonement on the seventh day, the seventh month, he did it in the eighth month. He did everything backwards. So he made Israel to sin. He made both the altar and the high place. He break down and burned the high place and stamped it, small powder, and burned the grove. And as Josiah turned himself, he spied, this is Josiah, he spied the sepulchres that were in the mount, and sent and took the bones out of the sepulchres and burned them upon the altar and polluted it according to the word of the Lord, which the man of God proclaimed, who proclaimed these words. And this is the fulfillment of a prophecy that goes back. And then he looked and he says, then he said, what title is that I see? And the men of the city told him, it is the sepulchre of the man of God, and nobody knows his name, which came from Judah, and proclaimed these things that thou hast done against the altar of Bethel. And he said, let him alone. Let no man move his bones. So they let his bones alone with the bones of the prophet that came out of Samaria. So there was, what was his name? That was with him. They were both hanging out together. And one of the bones, there was a dead person. They put his body down, and it touched the bones, and he came to life. He was resurrected because he touched these bones. That's how precious these bones are. So he said, let these bones alone with the bones of the prophet that came out of Samaria, and all the houses also of the high places that were in the cities of Samaria, which the kings of Israel had made to provoke the Lord to anger. Josiah took away and did to them according to all the acts that he had done in Bethel. And this is Josiah, and he did a lot of good things here. In the Second Chronicles, it's the same thing here. And he's talking in Second Chronicles, that's the same thing. And Ezekiel 36, 31. Then shall you remember your own evil ways and your doings that were not good, and shall loathe yourselves in your own sight for your iniquities and for your abominations. And Micah 5, I was looking at Micah 5 earlier. What was I doing here with this? Yeah, there's 1, 2, 3. There's at least three different words for idols in Micah 5. Oh my God, we got 10, 11. Okay, they're in a row here. That's good. And it shall come to pass in that day, saith the Lord, that I will cut off thy horses out of the midst of thee, and I will destroy thy chariots, and I will cut off the cities of thy land, and throw down all thy strongholds, and I will cut off witchcrafts out of thine hand, and thou shalt have no more soothsayers. We're going to get into that one of these days. Thy graven images also will I cut off. That's 13. Graven images, 64:56. That's the pasal, or the pisal, the pasal, will I cut off. And thy standing images, let me put this up here. And thy standing images, matzebah, that's like a pillar. Yeah, image, pillar, garrison. I don't know if I gave you that. 46:76. Metzebah, out of the midst of thee, and thou shalt no more worship the work of thine hands. And I will pluck up thy groves. I don't know if I gave a grove yet. I think I did. Yeah, Asherah. Yeah, out of the midst of thee, so will I destroy thy cities. And that's Micah 5. So there's like 3 or 4 different words that for image, pillar, Asherah, and the other one is Pisel. Okay, good. So we got them covered. And then Zechariah 13, And 2, and it shall come to pass in that day, saith the Lord of hosts, that I will cut off the names of the idols out of the land, and they shall no more be remembered. And also I will cause the prophets and the unclean spirit to pass out of the land. All right. And Revelation 19:20, and the beast was taken, and with him the false prophet that wrought miracles before him, with which he deceived them that have received the mark of the beast, and them that worshipped his image. These both were cast alive into the lake of fire, burning with brimstone. And this is probably the icon that worshipped his image. Yeah, that's icon image. Okay, and Isaiah 46 and 6. A lot of verses here, man. All good stuff. We read that already. 32 and 2. Another one here. And Aaron was saying, break off. This is when they made the golden calf. Break off the golden earring, which were in the ears of your wives and your sons and your daughters, and bring them unto me. And he made the golden calf out of here. Exodus 32. And then 17 and 3. Judges 17 and 3. And when he had restored the 1,100 shekels of silver to his mother, and this was, what's his name? Milcah or Micah or something. His mother said, I have wholly dedicated the silver unto the Lord from my hand for my son, to make a graven image and a molten image. Now, therefore, I will restore it to thee. Yet he restored the money unto his mother, and his mother took 200 shekels of silver and gave them to the founder, who made thereof a graven image and a molten image, and they were in the house of Micah. So these are the images that were in the house of Micah, that Dan and the other guy went up there and they did some stuff there. Bad stuff. Whew. I don't know how much more is left here, but idols, they filed his neighbor's wife and become a menstruous woman. Ezekiel 18. You see menstruous woman a lot in the Bible. And he hath not eaten upon the mountains, neither hath lifted up his eyes to the idols of the house of Israel, neither hath defiled his neighbor's wife, neither hath come near to a menstruous woman. Menstruous woman, and hath not oppressed any, but hath restored to the debtor his pledge, hath spoiled none by violence, hath given his bread to the hungry, and covered the naked with a garment. He hath not given forth upon usury, neither hath taken any increase, that hath withdrawn his hand from iniquity, hath executed true judgment between man and man, hath walked in my statutes, and hath kept my judgments to deal truly. So who is he talking about? He is just, he shall surely live, saith the Lord God. Okay, he's talking about a just man there. Ezekiel 18. And then Hosea 14, Ephraim shall say, what have I to do anymore with idols? Well, we're waiting for that day to come. I have heard him and observed him, and I am like a green fir tree. From me is thy fruit found. So those were some cross references for this Isaiah 30:22. I just thought there was a whole bunch of good stuff in there that came out of that. And then Nahum 1:14, talking about the illustrations of the images. And the Lord had given a commandment concerning thee, that no more of thy name shall be sown. Out of the house of thy gods will I cut off the graven image and the molten image. I will make thy grave, but thou art vile. And then Habakkuk 2:18. What profiteth the graven image? We read this how many times? A wooden image or one of stone. In 2:19. Woe unto him that hath said to the wood, awake, to the dumb stone, arise. It shall teach. Behold, it is laid over with gold and silver, and there is no breath at all in the midst of it. So this is what they did. They had the wooden Carved the stuff out of wood, and then they covered it with gold and silver. So how can you tell something like that awake? All right. So a wooden image or one of stone was first prepared, and the gold was then cast into a flat sheet, which the goldsmith hammered and spread out onto the plating which he fashioned on the wooden form. Thus, the goldsmith first melted the gold and then used a graving tool to fashion it to the shape of the image. Aaron's molten calf seems to have been made in this manner. This is evident from the way in which it was destroyed. The image was first of all burnt, so you can't burn, if it wasn't gold, you wouldn't be able to burn it. And then it was beaten or crushed to pieces and pounded or ground to powder. And that was Deuteronomy 9:21. Do I have it here? No. Deuteronomy 9:29, 21. 21. And I took your sin, the calf which you had made, and burnt it with fire. So how are you going to burn it if it's not wood? And stamped it and ground it very small, even until it was as small as dust. And I cast the dust thereof into the brook that descended out of the mount. Another brook with some gold, some treasure in it. Probably the same brook. Okay. So that is the wooden center was burnt into charcoal, and then the golden covering beaten or rubbed to pieces. And then Isaiah 49:10. Is it 40? No, 44:10. It's Roman numbers here. 44:10. Oh, who hath formed a god or molten graven image that is profitable for nothing? That's it. So, and that was from Manners and Customs. And this other guy, Manners and Customs, he's got the Teraphim. He's talking about the Teraphim. He says, and the number is 8655. So here's the Teraphim. The Teraphim in the land of Babylonia, from which Abraham had originally come. So he was from Ur, of the Chaldees. There was family worship or household gods, and the home had its altar along with clay figurines of these gods, which were called Teraphim. These families' gods served as guardian angels of the home. At the death of the father, these household gods, or Teraphim, would often be left to the oldest son, with the understanding that others of the family would have the rights to worship them. When Jacob left the home of Laban in Haran, Genesis says that Rachel stole the Teraphim that were her father's. And that's Genesis 31:19. You can see that there. And then Laban was very much agitated over this theft, and he pursued Jacob's party, and he said to him, "Wherefore hast thou stolen my gods?" 31:30. It's not here, but that's part of 31. Let me put it here. Wherefore hast thou stolen my gods? 31:30. And now thou wouldest needs be gone, because thou saw longest after thy father's house. And wherefore hast thou stolen? So on top of everything else, you're leaving me, you don't say goodbye, you're taking my kids with me, you're taking all of my cattle and everything. And he says, oh yeah, on top of that, you stole my gods. And Jacob said to Laban, because I was afraid, for I said, peradventure thou wouldest take by force the daughters from me. But with whomsoever thou findest thy goods, let him not live. Before our brethren discern thou what is mine and thine. But he didn't know that Rachel had stolen him. So Rachel had to do her thing. She was a spoiled little brat and a thief. Let me see. But why was Laban so concerned about this, discovering those lost Teraphim? This guy says that in charge of evacuations at Ur of the Chaldees tells of a tablet of that region which reveals a law that throws light on Rachel's theft. So this is why she took it. The possession of the household gods conferred the privilege of primogeniture, and that just means the rights of the firstborn. So whoever had possession of the Teraphim had the rights of the firstborn. So thus Rachel must have stolen her brother's birthright when she took her family's Teraphim, and she was thereby seeking to make Jacob the legal heir to the wealth of Laban, just because, they believe this stuff. This ancient form of idolatry, which is what it is, was vitally linked to family affairs. It would seem that Rachel brought forth these stolen teraphim when the family was about to move from Shechem to Bethel. Jacob said to his family at that time, "Put away the foreign gods that are among you and purify yourselves." And 35 and 2. I don't see it here. 35 and 2. 35 and 2. Then Jacob said unto his household, to all that were with him, "Put away the strange gods that are among you, and be clean, and change your garments, and let us arise and go to Bethel. And I will make there an altar unto God, who answered me in the day of my distress, and was with me in the way which I went." And they gave Jacob all the strange gods which they had in their hand, and all their earrings which were in their ears, and Jacob hid them under the oak which was by Shechem. Go find that oak, man, and dig up some gold. And they journeyed, and the terror of God was upon the cities that were round about them, and they did not pursue after the sons of Jacob. So that was another time. That was after this. So the presence of these relics of former days would indicate an effort to combine the superstitions and heathen charms of an idolatrous worship along with the worship of the true and living God. So they both at the same time. They worship God, and they had these little relics on the side, like the people that put the things around their neck, crosses and other things like that, for protection, supposedly, and it's nothing. It means nothing. It's superstition. So the Teraphim appeared on several occasions in later histories of the Israelites, and you'll see that in these verses here in Judges 17, Judges 18, and the man Micah had a house of gods and made an ephod. That's another word I didn't give you. Ephod is not always a pagan thing, but they would take something that God had sanctioned and turn it into something idolatrous, like they did with the brazen serpent on the pole, Nehashtan, I think they called it, and they started worshiping that, and you can't do that. So ephod. A priestly garment, shoulder cape, okay, and they turned these things into idolatrous stuff too. So I'm not going to get into all of this, but there are parts where they turned it into Samuel girded himself. Here we go. Yeah. And when the Hebrews fell into idolatry, they used teraphim and graven images in conjunction with the ephod. And you can see this, we're reading that now in Judges 17 and 5, 18, 14, 15, 17 and 20, and Hosea 3 and 4. It is safe to assume that in these instances, the ephod was a priestly garment, perhaps adorned with costly gems. After the captivity, the ephod did not serve the function described in the Pentateuchal legislature. Some believe that the spiritual influence of the prophets served to overshadow this means of ascertaining the will of God. And they would go to the Urim and the Thummim And they were, David used an ephod to see what the will of God was. Another word is apuda. Okay. So nothing else in there. Persian loanword. So we're covering a lot of ground here, but and then Teraphim. Let me see. Teraphim. Okay. So, and there's like 15 verses with this Teraphim in it, and most of the time it's something negative. It says it has to do with idolatry. The word comes from Rapha, which means to heal or physician, to make healthful. And there's something. Sheesh. A kind of idol used in household worship. That's all you have to know about that. And let me see what else I got here. I got a lot, but I don't know where to go with this now. Destroy your high places. We looked at that. Let me see if there's any other words that I want to get at here. Asherah. I can't get into the theological dictionary right now. We did that one. To pour out. Oh, yeah, 54. 45, 41. Pouring out. Oh, 45, 41. Molten calf. And this is pour out. Nasak. 1375 and 1377. So that's the pour out. 1377 is the and 1376 is the woven stuff. So I don't want to get into all this pouring out stuff here, but let me see. Drink offering daily at the time of the evening, liquid juice, a drink offering during the time of Jesus in accord with the Old Testament law, the week-long Feast of Tabernacles, including a daily drink offering. Okay, so it's all about the drink offering. TDNT 7. 528. 536. I wonder what that is. 7. Let me pull it down real quick. 7. 528 to 536. 528. Probably all the stuff that was just up here on this TWOT. 528 would be Stendoma. Okay, we're looking at this poured out here. TDNT 7, 4689, 4689. Offered. Philippians 2:17. Yea, and if I be offered upon the sacrifice and service of your faith, I joy and rejoice with you all. 2 Timothy 4:6. For I am now ready to be offered, and the time of my departure is at hand. So he's talking about a death here. And to be offered is the word spendo, to be ready to be offered, to pour out as a drink offering, to make a libation. In the New Testament, to be offered as a libation, figurative use of one whose blood is poured out in a violent death for the cause of God. Spendo. To pour out a portion of a drink on the ground or on a cultic site as the offering to the gods. It thus has the same sense as the poetic libo, liquid, or yeah, well, We'll read this some other time, but that's a good word. But it's spendomai. Do I have spendo or spendomai? I don't have the number for spendomai. But the Old Testament is that 52:62. Drink offering. Nisek. Jacob set up a pillar in the place where he talked with him, even a pillar of stone, and he poured a drink offering thereon, and he poured oil thereon. That's part of one of the images too. That part, Matseba, that's image. So we're just going all over the place here with the pillar, Matsebeth, pillar or something. He poured, nasak. Right, that's the same as spendo. Pour out a drink offering, nisek. So one's a verb, the nasak, and the drink offering noun is nisek. Drink offering now. Yeah, I didn't mean to go jumping around like this, but this is what happens when you study and you just go from one to the other. And it says spendomai in the New Testament, but the 4689 is not spendomai, it's spendo. The sayings are modeled on the passions, sayings related to Judaism or the Hellenistic world. What is meant is a historical cultic act which will conclude the life and work of the apostle. The judgment of men, which snuffs out the elect of God, is transcended by the apostle's own solemn, sacred interpretation of death. So this was his interpretation of death here, these two verses. The image of the drink offering suggests perhaps a secondary offering alongside the main one. Even so, if so, the main offering consists in the faith of the community which the apostle conveys to God, but the interpretation is by no means certain. It should be borne in mind that the priestly ministry of the apostle and the corresponding sacrifice and the offering up of the Gentiles are fundamentally established. Romans 1:9. I'm sorry, I was looking at this Messica, and I wound up going to this drink offering, because this is what it is, a molten image or a molten calf. It's something that's poured out. So it's an offering. And I got Romans 1:9. Romans 1:9. Maybe this is the word here. 1:9. For God is my witness, whom I serve with my spirit in the gospel of his Son, that without ceasing I make mention of you always in my prayers. Serve with my lips. Latruo. Offering up. What's this offering up? Without ceasing I make mention of you. It's in my prayers. What's 15:16? Romans 15:16. Maybe they got the wrong number here. 15:16. That I should be the minister of Jesus Christ to the Gentiles, ministering the gospel of God, that the offering up of the Gentiles might be acceptable, being sanctified by the Holy Ghost. So let me look at this offering up here. Offering up, 43:76. There's the word here. 43:76. I don't know what this Romans 1:9 is. Thinking of you in my prayers. So I don't know what the Romans 1:9 was. 1:9. Okay. Then Paul took men the next day, purifying himself with them, entering into the temple to signify the accomplishment of the day's purification, until an offering should be made for every one of them. What's this purifying? This is purifying himself. That's hagnidzo, making himself holy. Until days of purification, the days of hagnismos, until an offering, prospera, should be offered. 4374 should be offered. Prospero is the verb. Offered for every one of them. So you got prospera, the feminine noun, and you got that. And of course, it comes from pros, or unto, or to, or needs, or towards, and pharaoh, which means to bring or to carry. So to bring near an offering. I love the word of God here. Now, after many years, I come to bring alms to my nation and offerings. 15:16, that I should be the minister of Jesus Christ to the Gentiles, ministering the gospel, that the offering up of the Gentiles might be acceptable, being sanctified by the Holy Ghost. Ephesians 2:5-2, and walk in love, as Christ also has loved us and hath given himself for us an offering and a sacrifice to God, a sweet-smelling savor. Sacrifice. That's the thusia. That's one we were looking at before with the sacrifice, to kill the sacrifice, immolate, sacrifice, the sacrifice of victim. So that's what he was, innocent victim. Sacrifice to God, a sweet-smelling savor. Hebrews 10:5, wherefore, when he cometh into the world, he saith, sacrifice and offering thou wouldest not, but a body thou hast prepared me. And 10:8, above when he said, sacrifice and offering and burnt offerings and offerings for sin thou wouldest not, neither had pleasure therein, which are offered by the law. By the way, well, we can just put this in context, and it's just talking about him and his sacrifice once for all. Body aspect, in burnt offerings and sacrifices for sin, thou hast no pleasure. Of course not. It can't do anything. Then said I, lo, I come in the volume of a book, it is written of me, to do thy will, O God. Above when he said, sacrifice and offering and burnt offerings and offerings for sin, thou wouldest not, neither has pleasure therein, which are offered by the law. Now, the law is not done away with, but he is the fulfillment of the law. Then said he, verse 9, lo, I come to do thy will, O God. He taketh away the first, that he may establish the second. So he's talking about the Old Testament and the New Testament here. By the which will be sanctified through the offering of the body of Jesus Christ once for all. And every priest standeth daily ministering and offering oftentimes the same sacrifices, which can never take away sins. But this man, after he had offered one sacrifice for sins forever, sat down at the right hand of God, from henceforth expecting till his enemies be made his footstool. For by one offering he hath perfected forever them that are sanctified. Wherefore the Holy Ghost also is a witness to us. For after that he had said before, this is the covenant that I will make with them after those days, saith the Lord. I will put my laws into their hearts, and in their minds will I write them. That's all over the Old Testament. And their sins and their iniquities will I remember no more. Now, where remission of these is, there is no more offering for sin. So he's did it. There's nothing we can do. That's it. All these verses, Hebrews 10, all talking about him. And that's the gospel. The gospel. And so, let me see. In this sense, the apostles' priestly ministry is controlled by the concept and reality of the gospel of God. There you go. From this develops the new form of cultic thinking. On the other hand, the life of believers is also sacrificed and sacral ministry according to Romans 12:1. Sorry, we got away from this Hebrew word here, but Romans 12:1. It's all connected. Everything's connected. It's just one big word. We're learning how to. I beseech you, brethren, therefore, by the mercies of God, that ye present your bodies a living sacrifice, holy, acceptable unto God, which is your reasonable, logikos, your reasonable service, logical, logikos of the word. Present your bodies a living sacrifice. 39:36, present, paristome, sacrifice, sacrifice and service, thusia and latria, sacrifice, thusia, holy and acceptable. Latria is, service, here we go, service, latria, okay. So that the older cultic categories are imported onto the secularity of the Christian life. The two possibilities of exegesis are also present in Philippians 2:17. Philippians 2:17, I think we just read 17. Yes, and if I be offered upon the sacrifice and service, so here you got that, sacrifice and service, both of these words here, sacrifice, thusia, and service, liturgia of your faith. So that's good. And the solemn words of parting in 2 Timothy 4:6-8. 2 Timothy 4:6-8. He says, 6-8. I am now ready to be offered. At the time of my departure is at hand. I have fought a good fight. I have finished my course. I have kept the faith. Henceforth there is laid up for me a crown of righteousness, which the Lord, the righteous judge, shall give me at that day, and not to me only, but unto all them also that love his appearing. Wow, that's what we're looking for. So he's got that spend of mine, that's in here too, the drink offering. There thus develops in Christianity too a vivid passion vocabulary which stresses the dignity and significance of death in cultic thought forms. So we're just we covered a lot, and we're gonna leave it here for now. And thank you, God. Man, what can I say? This is just we're just bouncing all over the Bible with these words. And we started with the idolatry, like teraphim, and all these other words that have to do with molten images and graven images, and we wound up with an oblation, a sacrifice, and for the service. And this is what we want. We want to serve you. We want to offer ourselves up, and that's what we do a day at a time. I die daily, hopefully, in service to you. We love you, give you all the honor and praise. In Jesus' name, amen. Whew, that's it. There was just so much. I didn't know where to go with this, but we did what we had to do, All right. Thank you, God. Let me stop recording. Good stuff.